Hey everyone, in the last data analysis video, we kind of hand-coded our own data and built charts in Python using Pandas and Matplotlib, but this time we're leveling up. We're going to be using data from a CSV file, and we're going to be displaying this data and also filtering it just like you do for a real project or for a client. And the best part, you can download this exact sample CSV from the description below so you can follow along step by step, or you can adjust it for your own data. So why does this matter? Well, working with CSVs is a core skill for data analysts, developers, and even beginner Python learners. It teaches you how to load, clean, filter, and present your data in a way that's actually useful, not just pretty. Let's go ahead and dive on in. Let's create a new Python file here, and I'm going to just call mine data CSV example. All right, we need to import our two libraries. So the first one we're going to be doing is pandas, and we'll save this as PD, and we'll also import matplotlib as, let's do PLT. If you don't have either of these frameworks installed, you'll want to go to your terminal either on Visual Studio Code or the terminal on your Mac or command on your PC, and you'll want to run the pip or pip3 install pandas matplotlib. Now I already have these installed, so I am good to go, and I'm just going to close out my terminal. Alrighty, so let's start by loading up the data. So there's a couple different ways that you can do this. You could either just, read the CSV if your Python file is in the same folder or location. I always like to kind of just provide it with a file path for my data set. So I'm going to first initialize the file path, and we're going to have this equal where the sales data is located. So on Windows, you'll want to right-click on the CSV file. On Mac, you'll right-click, you'll hold Option, and copy as path name. Let's go ahead and paste this on in. So now we know what CSV file we're working with. We'll then create a data frame. I'm just going to call mine df, and we'll have it equal the PD, so our pandas, dot read underscore CSV. And you can actually see that pandas can read a lot of different files here. It's pretty cool. So we're going to be using the CSV because that's what we have today. And then we're going to include the file path. So that's going to read the CSV file into a pandas data frame. So now we can use it for our charts. The next thing I'm going to do is convert the date column. And you know what? I'm just going to open up the CSV here. I'm going to move it to this side of the screen so we can see all the data that we're working with. So I'm going to reference our data frame, and then within our data frame, I want to look for the date. Now you'll notice I'm spelling it with the same capitalization as it has within the CSV file here. And we're now going to convert the date column to a date-time format for any future time-based analysis. So we can do that by having it equal the PD dot to underscore date time df, and then we're going to reference our date here. And again, make sure it's the exact same. And let's also do a little bit of data cleaning. So we'll take our df dot fill na, and then we'll have it be 0, comma, in place equals, and then it needs to be Boolean value, so true. And this is essentially going to fill missing values in the data set with 0. So I like to think of it as fill, and then the NA as like not available, so things that don't exist. We're going to then fill it with 0. So real quick, as we're kind of going through the different pandas as well as matplotlib information, I do want to make a quick call out to the documentation, and I will post both of these in the description below. But if we want to look at pandas Python real quick, this is where you can actually check out the documentation. There's even like get started guides, and I really like how on this page there is even a way to search the documentation. So if we even want to look for the read CSV, we can look for that. We can even see how it kind of works. There's tons of different information here. So as we're going through the example, if you're ever curious about how certain things work, the documentation is there to help. Same with our Matplotlib. There's even a search the docs on this website as well. So both of these are in the description below. So if you're ever curious about any of these built-in functions or properties that we're accessing through these different imports, you can check out the documentation. All right, now let's go ahead and filter the data. So I want to have different things like the product names. Maybe we'll first handle things for the laptops and the laptop sales. So let's go ahead and have a product name. And for this one, I'm going to be looking at, let's look at the first one here, laptop. This is going to define the product that we want to filter. And let's also now look at the laptop sales. And we're going to reference our data frame. Then with our square brackets, add df, another square bracket, and we're going to be looking under the product column for this one. And then we're going to use our double equal sign to look for an exact product. In this case, I'm going to be looking for the different laptops. So I'm going to reference that product name we just created. So this essentially is going to filter the data set to only include sales of the specified product. So let's say your boss wants you to say, okay, we sold a lot of different electronics. Find me all the sales that have to do with the headphones. You can kind of use this to filter out for those different products. And you could have, instead of product name, you could have, product underscore laptop, product underscore headphones, etc., etc. Now let's look at sorting the data. So we can use the data frame underscore sorted, and we're going to say df dot sort. And we have the sort index, and we also have the sort values. So I'm going to do the sort values for this one because we're going to be looking at the revenue on this example. So let's go ahead and sort it by equals, and then we're going to reference the revenue column here. And this is why I really like Python, because this makes sense to my head. I'm looking at the data frame. I then want to sort the values. How am I sorting them? Well, I'm sorting them by the value within the revenue tab. Next, we can choose whether it's going to be ascending or in descending order. If you want to do descending, you're going to set the ascending value to be false. If you want it to be in ascending order, you would set that to be true. Next, let's go ahead and group and aggregate the data. So in this case, we'll be looking at, let's say, the total revenue. And let's have this equal the df dot group by, and then we're going to group this by the product. So this is going to represent things in that kind of first grouping. So I want all of the laptops to be together, the headphones to be together, etc., etc. Then I'm going to use my square brackets here, and I want to then look at the revenue for all of these. But I don't want to have just the revenue from, this day where we had the revenue of 3,910 from laptops. I want all that revenue together to compare. So we can use the dot sum with the empty brackets in order to now group data by product and the sum revenue for each one of those products. All right, and I want to have two different charts. So let's also analyze the total units sold per product, just to kind of show an extra example. So let's look at the total underscore units this time. And let's call it total units sold. And this will equal our data frame once again, dot group by. We're once again going to look at that product first, make sure we have the exact same spelling. And this time we're going to be looking at the sales, because the sales is kind of telling us, okay, we sold 5 laptops, we've sold 12 tablets in this case. And we're also going to use the sum here because I want to see how many of each product we have sold. Alrighty, let's go ahead and put this into a chart. Yeah, we could totally just take this data frame, print it, yada, yada, yada. It'd probably, it'd read okay. Let's go ahead and display this a little bit more visual, especially if we're presenting this to, a client, or we're kind of, wanting to see it a little bit more visually. So let's reference our total revenue first, and we're going to plot it. And here's where we can choose the kind of display that we want. We can even see in our documentation here, we can do a bar, a horizontal bar, hist, box, area pie. It's up to you how you want to display yours. I'm just going to go with the bar for this example. Let's also add a color. So I'm going to add a comma, color equals, and then I'll have this one be sky blue, so it looks a little bit nicer. We can also reference our PLT in order to add things like the title and the labels like we did before. So title, let's have this be total revenue per unit. We can also have the X label. So in this case, the X-axis is going to be those products. So if we look back, whatever is going to be within these kind of curved brackets is the X value, and whatever within these square brackets is going to be our Y value. So that means if we do PLT Y label, we'll want to include the revenue. And we can also include, maybe if your revenue is in euros or dollars or whatever you want, include that here. Why not? Next, I also want to show you another little trick that you can do is you can do the plt.x ticks, and you can add a rotation. I'm going to have this be 45. So when we now when we look at the X label, it's going to rotate those labels for better readability. Another one I want to show you is the plt.tight_layout with the empty brackets there, and that's going to adjust the layout a little bit for clarity. And lastly, we definitely need to show that bar chart, so we're going to run the plt.show. Okay, let's go ahead and run our program real quick, assuming we don't have a spelling mistake, which apparently I do. Oh my goodness, I didn't import it correctly. .pyplot. Okay, I was like, what did I do wrong here? So the matplotlib.pyplot. I was going too fast for my own good. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's go ahead and run it. Now we can see our total revenue per unit. So you can see here on the X-axis, we do have that kind of gangster lean going on here with the different labels. You can choose to include this, adjust the angle, totally up to you. The other thing here is our revenue is currently being shown in the 1E6. Now you may look at this and be like, well, he sold 1.0. Okay, that's probably like thousands. The 1E6 is referencing that it has 6 kind of units afterwards. So in this case, it should be 1.6 million. To me, that's not the most readable in the world. So there is a way to kind of change how this is being displayed. So while we're on the topic of fixing our imports, let's go ahead and add another one. And we're going to add the matplotlib.ticker and we'll reference it as mtick if you'd like. And this is where we're actually going to be able to use this in order to format the text or the numbers a little bit better. So we're going to add the plt.gca, add our empty brackets there. We're going to do the .y-axis because the numbers on our y-axis, they need to be formatted a little bit better. So we're going to do the .set underscore, and we have a lot of options here. And we want to, you can either type it out or you can search for it, use the major formatter here. We're then going to reference the mtick that we just imported, and we're going to reference the str method formatter here. We'll then add brackets and these apostrophes and say, this is how I want it to be formatted. And the way that I would do it is I'd add the braces here. I'd add x : comma .0f. And this is going to force our numbers to be displayed in their entirety, in their full form. So now let's go ahead and run our chart one more time. And we can see here it's forcing it to be displayed in the full absolute number value. And even when we look at how we've decided to use it, we can kind of see here, I want to add the comma to separate the values. I want to display all of the numbers to their maximum, not in the 1E6 or 1E5, etc. format. Okay, let's do our total units sold, and let's do a pie chart for this one so it looks a little bit nicer. So we'll do our total units sold dot plot and add the bracket. And because we're going to add a lot of properties, I'm just going to put it on another line. And let's establish the kind. And for this one, we'll have it be a pie chart. Make sure after all these different properties that you are adding a comma. Let's add the auto PCT, and this is going to show the percentages on the slices of pie, delicious. So we're going to have this equal with our apostrophe, %1.1 f %%. So this should kind of show those percentages. We're going to add a comma after that. Let's go ahead and add a start angle. So that's just start angle, and you can have it be whatever degrees you'd like. I'm going to set mine to be 90. Let's also have the legend, and this can either be true or false. I'm going to set mine to be false. Design choice, but sometimes it clips with different things. I don't know, but you can have it be true if you'd like. We can always, play around with how these things look because we're allowed to do so. We're coding, and we can make it however we want it to. That's the beauty of it. And for the Y label, I'm going to set it to be nothing. So I want to remove all the Y-axis labels. Next, let's go ahead and do our plt.title, and we'll say units sold by product. Then we'll take our plt.type layout. I can apply that here. And then we'll want to have our plt.show to actually display that chart. Let's go ahead and save it, and we'll run our program. We'll hit escape to get rid of that other chart, and now we can see, wow, it's actually a pretty even spread across all of the products. So we have our tablet, our smartwatch, our phone, and our laptop all being displayed in our pie chart, and all this data is being taken from the CSV file. Cool, I want to show you one more trick, and that is how we can actually get the top 5 revenue days overall. I'm going to create a top revenue days. We're going to have this equal our data frame, and we're going to use our group by one more time. And we're going to group it by within the kind of normal brackets, the date, and then within our square brackets, we're going to be looking at the revenue dot sum one more time. Now, the big change is we're going to also add the dot sort underscore values here. And we're going to put the ascending to equal false. And then finally, after that bracket, we're going to use the dot head with the empty brackets. So the dot head is going to look at the top 5 results of those sorted values. So essentially here we're saying, okay, group everything by date, and I want the total sum of the revenue, and I want it sorted. So like, what are all the top sales dates here sorted? And then the dot head is going to take those top 5 options and just kind of keep them there. If you want a different amount, let's say you want the top 10 days, within the brackets, you would put that number. So 10, if I want the top 3, right? Otherwise, by default, it's going to be 5. So let's go ahead and now print, top 5 revenue days. And then we'll go ahead and print the top revenue days. You can also do this with like the kind of interpolation, but because we kind of want them in a list, this will probably look the best. All right, so we have a lot of stuff in our console here, but now when we've ran it, we can see here that the best days are now in order. So we have, 2024-01-28, right? So you'll be able to look at this data, and, when you're presenting this to clients or, analysis, they love data like this. But real quick, let's go ahead and change the number in the head to 3. Update our string here. Let's go ahead and run our project one more time. Sometimes it doesn't like to run unless you close out all the other all the other charts. There we go. I was like, what's going on? And now we can see that it's just changed to be the top 3 by 10, right? Whatever number you have within the bracket, that's what it'll display. So that's a wrap. Today we learned how to load and clean data from a CSV file. We filtered and grouped it. We then visualized the insight through charts, first with a bar and then with a pie chart. And we were even able to kind of highlight those top performing and revenue generating days. If you want the sample data, try this for yourself. It's linked in the description below on my GitHub pages. And make sure to like and comment if you have any questions, and subscribe for more Python tutorials and projects. I'll see you in the next one. Dream big, code bigger.